talk to you a little bit about Florida specific. Florida specific. The reason I say Florida specific is because here in the state of Florida, we have a lot of lines that we have to walk down the middle of. You have to act as a home inspector, and you also have to act as a counselor. What brought this audio clip to my mind to bring to you was that I did a home yesterday in Apopka built in 1961. And I'm going to talk specifically in this particular case about the roof and the electrical, because these are two really big components of a home, and most buyers want to know about the roof and the electrical. So let's start with the electrical. On the electrical, what we had was the old two-wire system. Now, I didn't have cloth wiring, quote unquote. I had plastic coated cloth wiring. You have to draw the distinction there, and here's why. As a home inspector, when you're doing your home inspection report and you're in the electrical section or you're having a conversation with your buyer, you need to let them know they have an older system, ungrounded system, two-wire system, so that basically anything they plug into the system, in the way of like expensive electronics, could be subject to a surge issue that they'd want to consider adding grounded outlets to protect the expensive equipment. But more importantly, or equally as important, is how you present this information to your buyer, because your buyer, remember, they don't see what we see every day. So it's important when you explain things that they get the clear message. And sometimes you have to explain it on two different fronts. So from inspector to homeowner, I'm talking about it's a plastic coated cloth wire. It's been there since 1961. On the surface, it looks okay. I mean, the receptacles are two-wire, two-prong, ungrounded receptacles, and we can have that discussion on how we can update or upgrade that system to improve the safety of the electrical system for their benefit. We can have that discussion all day long. But here's where it gets a little tricky. On older homes in the state of Florida, typically what ends up happening is they do require a 4-point inspection report. So on that 4-point inspection report, typically these days we're using the citizens form. On a citizens form, it's asking you if you have cloth wiring. Some inspectors are going to check cloth wiring when the reality is we have plastic coated cloth wiring. Plastic coated cloth wiring, it does not have the issues that cloth wiring has. But in some cases it can, as the wire insulation degrades over time. So it's best from your perspective as an inspector to recommend, if you see degraded wiring, regardless if it's plastic coated cloth wiring, if you see it and it appears compromised, call it out for further evaluation to have an electrician check the integrity of the wire. But specifically for the 4-point, you don't want to check cloth wiring on a plastic coated cloth wiring application. Here's where it gets tricky though. You do your 4-point report and you don't check that box. The insurance company requires photographs for all the insurance reports, including the 4-point report. So someone at the insurance company is going to look at your report and see these photographs, and guess what the insurance company is referring to this plastic coated cloth wiring as? They're referring to it as cloth wiring. Large percentage of the insurance companies will deny coverage because the home has this type of wiring. So here we have the dilemma. You as the home inspector have to present the information honestly and accurately to the buyer. And you need to explain fully to them the entire story so they can get an understanding about what they're about to encounter. Because if you don't do it, their insurance company will probably come back at them and say, your house electrically isn't to code. Well, duh, of course it's not going to be to code, but that's the words that an insurance company might choose to use. And your buyer, not being in the business that you're in or a GC's in, is going to think that's an applicable statement, not to code. The truth is, no one should be using that terminology, period. But yet it will come across their ears via the insurance company. So what you have to do when you do your inspection report, and it's really important in my view to do it, is to explain to the buyer the reality between you and them, inspector and buyer, about what they have there honestly. But you have to, with certainty, you have to explain in verbally and in your report. You should have it in there somewhere that they should check with their insurance carrier, because some insurance carriers have policies that don't necessarily reflect the reality of what a GC, electrician, or home inspector might assess in an inspection report, meaning their policies are different. Because the insurance company's policy says they're not insuring something because of this type of wire, that does not mean that that's a deficient wire. It does not always mean that that house has to be rewired. Sure, I'm sure there's some cases where that's true, and as an inspector, you will notice that when you're out there. But here's the problem you run into. Your, your explanation has to cover this entire circumference of this conversation, so that if it does come up, and it will, in the state of Florida, mark my words, any inspector out there that's new to this business that hasn't encountered this yet, you're going to. It will, because the insurance carrier is going to talk about what their policy is. The buyer is going to hear this, not be able to get homeowners, and they're going to be looking back at their home inspector. So you, as a home inspector, you've got to establish the reality that they have a 1961 house, two-wire system with plastic-coated cloth wiring. The wiring should be assessed based by you and an electrician based on your recommendations. But the reality is their insurance company, when they see the 4-point report, might come back to them and make this electrical issue, could possibly be a non-electrical issue, really, into a huge electrical issue. So you've got to make sure to explain and recommend in your report and verbally. Check with the insurance company that you are considering doing business with to find out what their policy is on this type of wiring. Okay? It's a real important thing as a home inspector to do, because at least then your buyer has all of the information they'll need. And sure, as a home inspector, it's going to exceed the scope of what you're required to do. But let's face it, if you're going to be successful at this career, being a professional home inspector, you're going to have to leave sometimes that scope or those standards in the dust, because you're going to have to step up and do the right thing. The right thing is to let your buyer know what they're about to encounter. Now, if they have a good realtor, the realtor will be right there with you, because the real estate agent will likely know and understand what you're explaining to them and why. If they have a new real estate agent, you need to be the person that takes the lead there and take that real estate agent and that buyer under your wing with your knowledge and your expertise about what it is they need to be informed of as they move ahead. The next thing is the roof. Insurance companies are all over the map with the age of the roof they will or will not insure. So when you look at a roof, do the same thing that we just covered on the electrical. If you've got a roof that's 15 years old or 16 years old, just for argument's sake, and you believe after you look at it that it's potentially got another 3 to 5 years, well, you put that in your inspection report and you honestly tell them why you think that. You communicate verbally with them and then you put that in your inspection report. But let's not forget the other half of the equation, that homeowners insurance thing. Because some homeowners insurance companies will tell them that they can't get insurance, they have to replace that roof. And they're going to say that you have to replace this roof for us to be able to insure that home. Now, if you as a home inspector don't make that comment in your inspection report or have that conversation with your buyer, what'll end up happening is you've got in your inspection report, you believe the roof shingles have an estimated 3 to 5 years remaining life in your opinion. And your opinion may be dead on, but the insurance carrier is telling them they have to replace it. Now, if they haven't heard this and they're hearing this for the first time from the insurance company, they're going to come back to you and you're not going to be able to defend yourself, really. I mean, sure, you're not going to get in any trouble, anything, but it's not going to be good for business. It's going to make you look like you misrepresented the life expectancy of the roof. But what you should do is put in your inspection report and have a verbal conversation with your buyer. And you say to them, I believe this roof has 3 to 5 years remaining life based on the age and the condition and what I'm seeing here. However, you should check with your insurance company or the company you plan on doing business with to find out what their policy is on roof shingles, because the insurance company will often require replacing a shingle well before the end of its life expectancy based on their policies. Based on their policies. And make sure you make that very, very clear to your client. It's something that they're going to depend on knowledge-wise of getting from you. And it's better that they get it from you first, because there's nothing worse than someone falling in love with a property and being stifled on the insurance side of it. So we want to mentally prepare everyone involved. And your expertise in doing this will be done probably hand in hand with their realtor if the realtor is experienced. If they're using someone inexperienced, well, you're going to be the person that takes the lead there, because you're going to be informing them, their realtor, and then they in turn will be informing the sellers. Because guess what? If the seller of that property isn't able to get that house sold because the next buyer can't get insurance because of the plastic coated cloth wiring and because they have a 17-year-old roof, right? So the most important thing you can do is Florida specific, guys. In Florida, insurance plays such a huge part right now in every real estate transaction. Get up to speed on this so that when you do your home inspections and your reports and you use that elevated communication that is so important to you, not only looking good and doing the right thing, but building your business and building a reputation, strong reputation. It's that reputation that as you go year after year after year of doing it this way, it's going to build your business, and you're going to become known in the industry as someone that people can trust. And that is the most important thing that you can do as a home inspector in the state of Florida. This is Paul with PJM Incorporated. Please take a look at my book, The Business of Home Inspection, available on Inspector Outlet, the Internachi organization. It is endorsed by Nick Gromyko, which is a pretty cool thing to have happen for us. If you're enjoying these video clips, please comment. Let me know what you think. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.